Tulsi Gabbard's recent appearance in Washington sent shockwaves across the political spectrum as she leveled serious accusations against Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. In an unscheduled and fiery press conference, Gabbard presented what she called undeniable evidence of a sprawling $93 billion fraud operation allegedly overseen by Granholm during her tenure. According to Gabbard, the misuse of federal funds occurred under the guise of clean energy initiatives, but in reality, funneled billions into shell corporations. Tulsi revealed were detailed, spanning hundreds of pages, each outlining questionable transactions, internal emails. With a backdrop of reporters stunned into silence, Gabbard didn't mince words. She openly called for Granholm's resignation and immediate arrest, declaring, "This isn't just mismanagement. This is calculated theft of taxpayer money. If we don't hold her accountable, we're endorsing corruption at the highest level." The gravity of her statement, coupled with the evidence she waved in front of the cameras, captured national attention and drew a clear line in the sand as the story gained traction. Media outlets scrambled to verify the documents Tulsi had presented. Independent journalists and watchdog groups immediately began sifting through the files. Initial findings were damning. Several of the corporations listed as recipients of billions in grants were either recently established with no track record or had gone defunct within months of receiving government funds. The suspicion grew when reporters discovered that many of these organizations had direct links to Granholm's former aides or political donors. Gabbard, known for her unfiltered and bold style, took to social media to further expose the scheme. Her posts featured excerpts from contracts, signatures, and internal budget requests that appeared doctored or incomplete. She emphasized how the so-called green energy transition had been weaponized to serve private interests under the mask of progress. "This wasn't about climate change," Tulsi wrote. "It was about cold, hard cash, and the American people have been played for fools." The public's response was explosive. Online forums, news comment sections, and town hall meetings were ablaze with citizens demanding action and transparency. In response to the accusations, Jennifer Granholm initially remained silent, but after a week of growing pressure, she issued a statement dismissing Gabbard's claims as baseless political theater. Granholm argued that all expenditures under her leadership had gone through the proper channels and were approved by bipartisan committees. However, the statement failed to address the specific transactions or companies highlighted by Gabbard. This lack of clarity only added fuel to the fire. Critics accused Granholm of hiding behind bureaucracy, while even moderate lawmakers began voicing concerns. In a surprising twist, whistleblowers from within the Department of Energy began to step forward anonymously. One such whistleblower provided internal emails suggesting that higher-ups had been warned about the suspicious disbursement patterns but were told to stand down. Tulsi Gabbard seized on this revelation, calling for a full congressional hearing and the appointment of a special prosecutor. "The American people deserve the truth," she said on a nationally televised interview. "No one is above the law, not even cabinet members." Congress, sensing the gravity of the situation and the mounting public outrage, was forced to react. Several lawmakers across party lines agreed to initiate an investigation. A House Oversight Committee announced the formation of a bipartisan panel to look into the allegations raised by Tulsi Gabbard. The hearings were set to be public, and subpoenas were quickly issued to various contractors, consultants, and staff. Associated with the Department of Energy, behind closed doors, panic reportedly began to spread among those in Granholm's inner circle. Gabbard, undeterred by political pressure, continued her campaign, traveling to key states to speak directly to citizens. Her town halls attracted massive crowds, many of whom carried signs reading, "Where's the $93 billion?" and "Jail Granholm now." Even traditionally, pro-administration outlets began publishing cautious editorials, urging a transparent and swift inquiry. Tulsi's persistence had transformed what started as a lone voice of dissent into a movement demanding answers. As the hearings commenced, the public was treated to a spectacle rarely seen in modern politics. Gabbard testified with precision, laying out timelines, names, and figures that painted a disturbing picture of systemic fraud. The committee was visibly shaken as one document after another revealed how companies with no employees and no facilities received multi-million checks. One particularly damning moment came when a former Energy Department auditor admitted under oath that he was instructed to look the other way during compliance reviews. Granholm was subpoenaed to testify, but cited executive obligations. To delay her appearance, her evasiveness drew harsh criticism from both sides of the aisle. Gabbard didn't let up, stating, "If Secretary Granholm believes she's innocent, she should welcome the chance to clear her name." And the national broadcast of the hearings drew record-breaking viewership days later. Granholm finally took the stand, but her testimony only deepened suspicions of individual grant decisions. However, emails and internal memos contradicted her, showing she had personally signed off on several of the most egregious At one point, a Republican committee member held up a copy of a signed authorization from Granholm for a $250 million grant to a company that filed for bankruptcy. 6 weeks later, "How do you explain this?" he asked sharply. Granholm faltered, giving a vague response about due diligence and fast-paced innovation cycles. The room buzzed with disbelief. By the end of her testimony, the committee chair openly stated that the evidence suggested gross negligence at best and criminal fraud at worst. Public confidence in Granholm's leadership had plummeted to an all-time low. With momentum on her side, Gabbard called for the Department of Justice to act. She formally submitted a criminal referral based on the evidence uncovered during the hearings. In a press conference, she demanded an immediate investigation into Granholm's conduct, adding, "If the DOJ fails to act, it will send a message that elite corruption is immune to justice." Her words reverberated across the country. Civil society groups, former prosecutors, and ethics watchdogs echoed her call. The DOJ, under pressure, confirmed they were reviewing the materials submitted. Meanwhile, an independent inspector general launched a parallel investigation. The implications were massive if substantiated. The fraud would represent one of the largest financial scandals in U.S. cabinet history. Granholm's legal team began issuing carefully worded statements, but insiders hinted that some of her former allies were preparing to turn on her to save themselves. Gabbard remained resolute, telling reporters, "This is bigger than politics. This is about restoring faith in our institutions." Public sentiment had clearly shifted. Polls showed overwhelming support for a full investigation, and many Americans viewed Tulsi Gabbard as a rare figure of integrity, willing to challenge the powerful. Editorials in major newspapers praised her courage, while others warned of the dangerous precedent of trial by media. Still, Gabbard stayed focused, insisting that the facts, not the fanfare, would drive justice. During a town hall in Michigan, Granholm's home state Gabbard revealed additional emails from a consulting firm hired under Granholm's watch. These communications showed project managers discussing how to spin underperformance data to justify additional funding, a clear sign of deliberate deception. Attendees erupted in anger, demanding arrests. That same night, Tulsi appeared on several major news networks, reiterating her demand. Granholm must be arrested. No delay, no excuses. If this happened under any other administration, we'd already see indictments. Her tone was unwavering, and her growing support signaled that she had touched a nerve that couldn't be ignored. Behind the scenes, panic rippled through Capitol Hill. The Biden administration, already facing multiple challenges, found itself in a difficult position. Some allies tried to defend Granholm, but the weight of evidence made it politically untenable. Rumors circulated that Granholm was considering resignation to avoid further scrutiny. But Tulsi responded with a fierce retort. Resignation is not enough. Justice demands consequences. The pressure intensified when leaked memos revealed internal discussions among Democratic strategists advising damage control and distancing the party from Granholm. As investigations deepened, federal agents reportedly began interviewing individuals named in Gabbard's files. Several subpoenas were quietly issued, and insiders warned that indictments could be imminent. Gabbard, meanwhile, doubled down, launching a grassroots initiative called Justice for the People, aimed at rooting out government fraud across all departments. Her bold stance had not only ignited national outrage, but had begun